Okay, we should see everybody back here in just a few seconds here. And we will get this thing moving on.
Oops. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, is this another breakout session?
No, this is the main one.
Oh, the main one. Okay. I hope I'm not going too fast.
See, not using your information to crack. Oh, you go so. Yeah, no, not bad time.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. And again, I'll remind everybody to put into the chat screen your contact information at the end of the evening. You can go in there and download all of the people's information that you met tonight. And hopefully, did everybody enjoy that breakout session? Is that something you like?
Not
Oh,
enough
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, need
Not
more
enough
time.
Vern.
You got some good people on this call, Vern. There's some good people.
Yeah,
on
we need more time.
Okay. Well,
Can we
maybe
buy
we'll
extra
start.
10 minutes? Can we
Yeah.
buy extra 10 minutes?
Yeah, maybe we could bump it up to 7 minutes and do 3 sessions or something like that.
A lot of people hungry to learn here, fellas.
That's right. Okay, well, can everybody see my screen here?
Yes.
All right. Awesome.
Yes.
So we're going to get through the sponsors here. We just finished up the networking. And again, we ask that you put in your information into the chat. We always want to pay homage to Gene Carino, who is unfortunately not with us anymore, but Gene was involved in this. And he started the REL Academy in the REL National Association. And he really, I think, made a huge impact in the residential assisted living. So we always appreciate what his contribution was and want to recognize that.
Gene was a great guy. What a great family, too.
Yes, totally agree. So we encourage everybody to visit our website. That is DAALR.com. And on that website, particularly, well, we do have some assisted living for sale, although I'm sorry, it's not very updated. The REL information there, and you can contact us. If you are in Colorado, it's imperative that you go to the helpful links if you're getting started. And these 2 links right here are the rules and regulations that you need to know if you are in Colorado. So next is our website or our Facebook page, Denver ALR, and we are streaming on that right now. And we encourage you guys to go on here as a network, just a typical social media, getting to know other people. You have something for sale, if you're looking for something, if you need some advice, it's a good place to go and just kind of connect with everybody. And of course, our meetup page, which we are now up to 862 members. So we're getting closer to that 1,000 member mark. We appreciate everybody going there to register. It gives us an idea of what to expect. And next, we're going to talk about our sponsors. And here is some of the sponsors. Les Simpson with Wellness Tech Plus. I didn't see Wes here. Is Wes, you around? Okay, Wes is not here tonight. But they have some health and exercise programs. You can go to this website here, Wellness Tech Plus, to see what he's got going on there. Next, we have Hall Ryan Construction. This is for the Denver Metro Front Range area. They are doing a lot of roofs right now because of the hailstorms that we've had. So if you need a roof quote, please give Chad Weisenhunt a call, and that is hallryanconstruction.com. Next, we have Brett Brett, please help me with your last name.
Yeah, it's Brett Shotkavis.
Kavis.
So it looks pretty aggressive, but it's kind of easy to say when you memorize it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Brett, do you want to chat a little bit about Palm University?
Oh, for sure. So I build new construction assisted living mansions. I call them memory care mansions. And we specialize in a 16-bed luxury assisted living. And I'm here to help anyone who wants to build something similar. We're actually investing in other people's new construction business. If you want to build with one of our models, we're building around the country using our exact blueprints and building plans and operation systems. And we want to invest in one new business each month. So that is us.
Terrific. And those are really nice houses, folks. I've seen Brett's models and the floor plans, and it's very sweet. And I am very, very much a fan of purpose built in this space, far better than a conversion. So, once you get to that level, that's definitely the way to go. Next, we have the RAL National Association. And Brian, would you like to say a few words about the National Association?
Yeah, sure. I'm the president of the REL National Association. We have a meetup group once a month, actually the day before Vern's meetup group. And we have a big convention coming up, the REL National Convention. It's going to be in Phoenix, and that's where Vern and I met some 7 years ago, I think now. And it's going to be a good time. There's going to be a ton of speakers and a lot of great exhibitors. And it's always a lot of fun. You make friends there that you end up keeping with you for years.
Thank you, Brian. On that national convention on our website, we do have a link to that with a discount. So if you're interested in attending, go to our website, search for that. I think it's on the front page if you scroll down, and you'll be able to see it there. So again, the REL National Association. Next, we have assisted living marketing. And Peter, would you like to say some words?
Yeah, quickly. Thanks, Vern. Yeah, we help you with your digital marketing. We can do logo design, brochures, and that type of print media as well. And yeah, been doing this for over 13 years, primarily for senior care and for residential assisted living. So if you need help with that, let us know.
And I'll just add, we've used Peter on several of our websites. They are very, very prompt in getting back to you whenever you have an issue or want to add something. And that's something that, I've dealt with web designers for over 20 years, and it's hard to find somebody that really will return your calls. So thank you, Peter.
Or answer their phone even.
Yes, indeed. Next sponsor we have is Pinkowski Law, and I'm going to go back to Brian Pinkowski.
Well, hey there, I'm Brian Pinkowski. Michelle Pinkowski's out of the country right now, but still working on client business, long distance while she's out there. And I'm back in Colorado. We're helping people all over the country, and in fact, around the world. We're helping people as far away as Thailand and Singapore right now, and working with a lot of people in Colorado on regulatory issues, and outside of Colorado on zoning related issues. As you might know, sometimes these kinds of homes will cause distress for unknowledgeable neighbors until they actually see what it's like. But we help people deal with that. We help people deal with the cities, helping communities understand what the Fair Housing Act means, and also helping our entire community understand that, believe it or not, you guys are now civil rights warriors. You're actually protecting the rights of the disabled to live where they want. So that's what we do. And as far as I can tell, I think we're the only lawyers in the country that do this just for assisted living. So that's an exciting thing for us to claim.
Thanks, Brian. And Brian and Michelle have been actually absolutely instrumental here in Colorado, fighting some of the regulations that are silly. And I know that they're doing a lot of great things around the country. So thank you, Brian. Next, we have the RAL Academy. If you are getting started in this and don't know anything about assisted living, this is a great place to go. And we actually have a link to them on our website up here. And this is, they've just got all kinds of just basic 101 information. So if you're kicking the tires about this industry, go here and figure out what it's all about. That's RAL Academy. Next, we have Grand Avenue Business Brokers at A Better Way Realty and Better Way Funding. So this is the group that I am with. I'm Grand Avenue Business Brokers. I am a certified business intermediary. And at A Better Way Funding, we do lease options where we will buy the properties and lease them out to operators. We currently have over 600 beds and over 45, somewhere in that range, facilities in our portfolio. And we are always looking to add to that. This fundraising, tonight's topic is of interest to me as well, because we are looking for more investors. We have under contract right now 40 beds in Idaho. We've got available 86 beds in Eastern Colorado. Under contract, 16 beds in North Metro. We've got 50 beds pending south of Denver, another 46 beds in Northwest that are pending. And those two we are looking for more investors for. So if you'd like to put your money into a fund that would invest in these properties, we would certainly welcome that. You can contact me about those. We've got 32 beds under contract south of Denver, another 32 closing in 2 weeks on the western slope, and another 12 that are pending north of Denver. So as you can see, I've been a very, very busy guy lately. All right, next we have news from CALA. Peter, would you like to speak for CALA tonight?
Yeah, I will speak for CALA. So a little bit about them. We are the Colorado Assisted Living Association. We, our members typically are residential assisted living and independent companies, entities that are primarily local to Colorado, not national chains. Our focus is on advocacy. We have a lobbyist that works for us full time to lobby on our behalf at the state legislature, as well as a lot of the just regular training that you need around hiring and firing, employment law, regulatory. How are you going to be ready for your next survey, and how do you deal with those things? So that's our focus. That's what we work on. The big thing we're working on right now is a big conference coming up here the end of September. As I think it's the week after, it's a week or two after the RALNA event. But it's here in Denver. It's going to be big. We have a lot of speakers. It's called Collaboration in Aging. It's all about the journey of care and aging, and how do we do it differently, and how do we come up with some new ideas on how we can see this go differently for us. So check that out. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Peter. So, and I also want to plug CALA. If you have an assisted living here in Colorado, this is a group you should be a part of. Okay, so next we're going to hand the controls over to Brett Buckhavis. Did I do it right that time, Brett?
I think you were pretty close. I think one more time you'll have it.
All right. So we met Brett, it's been close to a year now, and really, really like his energy and the things that he's got going on. Again, I've seen his houses. They're absolutely beautiful. It's a great model. And Brett's got some good things going with Palm University. The training that they have on there is pretty top notch. So, I would suggest if you're up and running and want to improve your business, that you should take a look at what Brett has. And Brett, talk to us tonight about raising capital.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my goal for you tonight is I really want to simplify how I think about raising capital. And I talked with a bunch of you And there was a common theme that a lot of people are, they have one or two homes and they're looking to expand, or they're looking to get into their first one. And I know that there's a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity about getting into this industry because of the funding. I know that's a huge roadblock for people. So I really want to simplify this for you tonight and show you, here are the steps, here are the processes that I walk through when I've raised money, and show you the different deals that I've done to do it, and just kind of really encourage you and show you that it's not that scary. And really, if you have a plan, if you have a structure, you can achieve some of these dreams that you have. You can go and get the money. It's really not all that difficult. So I hope at the end of this, you realize that, hey, Brett's nothing special. I've done some very big assisted living deals, and I really didn't use much of my own money on it. And if there's just a structure and a plan to it, you can do this same kind of thing. So that's really my goal for you tonight, just to leave encouraged and pursue your dream, and know that this is a huge opportunity in this space, and will be for the next several decades. And I think that everyone should have a part of this that has a big heart, that wants to love and serve on people. So I will get my screen going here, and then we'll jump into this presentation. All right. So can everybody see my screen? And then, so I got a little fancy button here. I can actually put myself in the corner.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so this is what we're talking about tonight, right? How to raise money and use an investor presentation to do it. So I'll really just going to walk you through step by step what I have done several times, and show you almost a case study of, like, okay, here's a couple different deals and here's different ways to go about it. So a little bit about me. I own and operate Platinum Resort Assisted Living and Memory Care. I'm in Georgetown, Texas. It's about a half hour north of Austin. And you can see my homes here on the left. This is Platinum Resort on Mesa. It is a 16-bed, small type B. It's, if you're not in Texas, we're really focused on end-of-life care. Most of our grandmas and grandpas are, the very last stage of life. Most of them have dementia. But I bought this property, and it was an existing home, and I gutted it and I renovated it. And all in, I was about 1.1 million. And I used very little of my own capital on that. So I'll show you how we did that and how I structured everything for this. On the right, this is my next project here. We're building a neighborhood of memory care mansions. And when I say a neighborhood, we bought 8 acres and we're cutting in our own road. And it's really going to look like 4 custom designed mansions that, like, a custom home builder put next to each other. So there's no big parking lot in the front. There's no red curb. They're all going to look different from the exterior, but practically be the same purpose-built end-of-life care, luxury mansion on the inside. So all of these buildings, there's going to be 4 of them, are about 10,000 square feet each, 16 bedrooms, 17 bath, and really custom and upscale. And my wife is an amazing designer. So she designed the whole thing. So this project is going to be 10 million, and it may push up even higher to 11 or 12 million, but that's where we're at right now. And again, in this whole project, I'm going to show you how I use the funding, how I raise capital with an investor, but I literally have $0 in on this $10 million deal. So I think whether you do 10 million, and probably no one's going to do 10 million, but you can for sure do 1 million. You can for sure do 500,000 or 2 million. And I just want you to know that it's not that difficult, and to be encouraged that if you have a path and a plan for this, that you can go after these goals and these dreams for yourself. So as we're talking about funding, I break it down into 4 frameworks. And really just to kind of simplify it for you and know that there's not a ton of different things going on out there in this field. There's just really 4, and each of those 4 have subpoints and other things you have to do. So I'm going to break down some of these things tonight, but really the 4 frameworks that I work with is your financial tools, right? The things that you're going to need to do this type of deal. You're going to need a business plan. You're going to need some financials. That's the first framework. The second one is the lender, right? The main lender, the bank, whether you go, local bank or you go SBA or commercial, whatever you're going to go, the lender is going to be one of those frameworks. The third one is optional. It's your investor. And we'll spend a good amount of time talking about that tonight, because if you're like me, you didn't have a ton of extra money to come up with all the money you're going to need to get the deal done. So the investor is the person or multiple people that can cover the difference. And we'll talk about that tonight. And the last framework is the deal structure. How am I actually putting this together? How am I presenting this offer? What will my offer look like? How am I setting up the terms and the paperwork and those kind of things? So I'll share some of the ways that I did that tonight. So that's my 4 frameworks. And really, if it's just 4 things, that I want it to not be too intimidating. I want it to be easier to understand. It's not that difficult. So, like I said, I already started out with my goal for you tonight, that it's just not scary. It's not really that difficult, and you don't need a ton of your own money. You just need a plan. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes showing you, here's my plan. Here's what I've done several times. Here's how I've raised this money. And here's how you can do it. So this is what we're going to get into tonight. And this is the structure of my talk for tonight, how to get an investor meeting. So again, we're coming at this from the perspective of, you may not have bags of money and you may need to raise some money in order to get all the money you need when you're going to the lender, going to the bank to get this. So how to get an investor meeting, the tools that you need for raising money, we talked about it, and I'm going to break that down. And then I do a 3-phase investor presentation. So we'll talk through the structure of my 3-phase presentation, and then we'll hit on some deal structure examples. Really, there's 2 ways that I go with the deal structure, and I'll share both of those. And then we'll kind of wrap things up tonight with an offer. How do I make an offer to a potential investor? What does it look like? And how can you potentially structure an offer if you were trying to raise money so that you can do your next assisted living deal? So I like to think of this as Frodo, because Frodo is like the underdog. All right. I'm sure most of you have seen the movie, but Frodo is charged with this task to take this ring, right, through like this crazy journey to Mordor and drop it into like this lake of fire, right? And he's with like axe wielding dwarves and elves that shoot arrows and a wizard. Like, he is the most unlikely character in this story to be the hero, but nonetheless he is. And I think that myself and you are similar to Frodo in this story, because when I first got into this, I didn't know anything about assisted living. I literally I opened my first assisted living 3 years ago. So I bought the building like about 5 years ago. But prior to that, I literally had 0 experience in assisted living. I owned a sober living prior to that, but I felt like a total newbie the first time that I did this. I felt like Frodo Baggins. I felt like I'm the guy who doesn't know anything about this industry, and I have 0 experience. I've never wiped a butt. I've never showered a 90-year-old grandma. Like, I don't know anything about this kind of stuff, right? Like, why should I be the one to do this? And how can they trust me to with their money? So I think that Frodo is a fantastic example for this. So really, as you're saying, like, maybe your self-talk to yourself, right? Like, I'm not quite good enough to do this, or if I had more experience, I could do this, or if I was better with numbers, I could do this. I don't really think it matters, right? It's just like Frodo, like, you just need to tell your story. People will be attracted to the underdog in any kind of story, right? In sports, in life, people are always rooting for the underdog. So I just think that you just need to accept that you're not perfect, just like me, that you are the underdog, that you are not an expert at raising money. And so just embrace it. And when you can embrace it, it takes all the pressure off. And it just allows you to be yourself. You don't have to be some spectacular wizard of finance. You just have to be you. And I think that just like Frodo, right? You starting out in the Shire and you're going to go through this long, crazy adventure. You tell your story, right? I'll share tonight how you can be sharing your story on your social, and you'll be sharing your story when you're talking to people. But your story is, I either am looking to start my first assisted living, or I own, one or two or however many homes or beds, and I'm looking to build my next one or finance my next one, or whatever your story is. But every person has a story, and most likely you're not the crazy expert and you're not the financial wizard, and you are the underdog. So as we're going through and raising money, it's very important to start with the perspective that you don't have to know everything, that you don't have to have all of your stuff together. You just have to know that people will be attracted to your story because they love the underdog. So just get out there and start telling where you're at. Right now, you are here live on Zoom, and you're here at a presentation about raising money. So you can literally tag me on your social and say like, hey, I met with Brett and he's talking about raising money. And did you all know that I am looking to raise money? I want to start my own assisted living. That's my dream. That's my goal, right? You can put it out there in the world, show it on your social, and let people know like you are in the beginning stages of your journey. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to have everything together, but you do have to open your mouth and you do have to tell people, and people will root for you. People love the underdog story. So start now. That's where we're going to kick this off tonight. Start now. So let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that you're going to need in order to do this. And for simplicity's sake, there's really just two tools. There may be other things, but we're going to keep it pretty simple. And those two tools, right, there's your business plan and there's your financial pro forma, right? It's really just an overview, a prediction of what your numbers are going to be. So I like to use these two things, and I like to use them in a specific way. I want to use my business plan and my financial pro forma to tell my investors, the people that I'm meeting with. Obviously, at this point, they're not my investors yet. They're usually just friends of friends of friends and family, people I met, at church or at a meetup group. They're people that know and like and trust me. And I want to use these two tools to show them the two things that I think investors want the most. Right? I put on the bottom of the screen here. The two things that investors want. Number one, they want to know their money is safe. First and foremost, how do I keep my money safe? How do I know I'm going to get it back? Second to that, and second way past number one, right? If my money's not safe, I don't care about anything else. So number one, I want it safe. Number two, I want a great return. How do I get a great return? So I use these two tools to share those kind of things. And I'm going to break that down a little bit more in just a minute here as I get through it. But that's really the perspective I'm coming from as I am doing my plan here, as I'm sharing what I want to do, as I'm going on my journey and saying, hey, I'm going to be raising money for this next project. I'm coming at it when I have these coffee meetings or these Zoom meetings with these two things in mind. I'm going to show you, Mr. or Mrs. Investor, how your money is safe and you're going to get it back. And number two, I'm going to show you how you can make a great return, how this deal is a home run. So let's keep moving along here. What I will do is I do a 3-phase investor presentation. Okay. And I like to kind of make things with a structure. I think it's easy for me to understand, and I hope it's easy for you to understand. That's why I started off and said, hey, there's only 4 frameworks to this. There's only 3 steps in this investor presentation, but it gives you a structure, a point 1, point 2, point 3. And for me, that's pretty easy to understand. It's pretty easy for me to follow along. So the first thing that I do is I have my 30-second elevator speech, my pitch, right? So I'm going to break that down in just a minute here. The second part of this is I do my business plan overview. And my business plan, like I said, is talking about number one thing for the investor, how to keep their money safe. The third part of my investor presentation is my financials, right? My pro forma. I'm going to overview the numbers. And this is where I show them that their money is not only safe, but it's going to have a great return, that this deal is a home run. So I'm going to overview, or this was my overview, but I'm going to break down my 3-phase investor presentation next. Okay, let's talk here. Phase 1, right? This is my elevator pitch. So my elevator pitch, here's the goal of my elevator pitch. My goal is to move them from phase 1 to phase 2, right? Phase 2, that's getting a meeting, whether it's at a Starbucks or a coffee shop or whether it's on Zoom. I want to have an actual meeting with them talking about investing with me. So the goal of my elevator pitch is to move people to the next spot, right? To the next meeting. So for me, I think it's so much easier to do these kind of things where it's very low pressure. And for me to be low pressure, I don't ever ask for money. I think it's super important that you take this away. You don't really ever ask for money. You can ask, hey, do you know anyone who would be interested in something like this? Do you know anyone who's looking for an investment? Do you know anyone? Fill in the blank, right? But I never really ask them. I really am asking them. I'm really asking them directly, but I don't ever use the words, do you want to invest with me? Do you have extra money laying around? Do you want to, give me your IRA money? Like, that's a little awkward. I don't really ever say those. I always just say, do you know anyone who'd be interested in an opportunity like this? So let me skip down one and let me give you an example of my elevator pitch. So I say, hey, what we do is we build 16-bed luxury memory care mansions, and they have all the care and amenities that you can get in one of those big smelly facilities, but they're done in an intimate, custom designed 10,000 square foot purpose-built mansion. And we're building 4 of these here in Georgetown, and we're going to be breaking ground this summer. And I'm raising some money to do this project. Do you know anyone who'd be interested? So that's pretty much my elevator pitch. It's something very similar to that. And that's not memorized. I just said whatever came to mind, but it's some variation of that. And it's pretty much very similar every single time. So that is kind of where I'm going with this. Very low pressure. I'm sharing what I'm doing. I'm trying to make it very intriguing. And then I want to move people to the next step, to my phase 2. So for me, I say this to everyone. I'm trying to put my elevator pitch out there everywhere. So literally, like at the grocery store, at my gym, at church, literally like everywhere I go, I'm trying to work it into a conversation. So like, let's see, for an example, I was at the gym earlier, and we're talking about this podcast. And this podcast, for whatever reason, the topic of it was goals. So we were talking about this show and talking about these goals, and I worked this in. And I said, well, hey, do you know that one of my goals is I'm about to break ground on this new construction assisted living neighborhood. And my goal is to get this thing done off the ground here by this summer. And then I kind of led into my elevator pitch. So literally with everything that I do while I'm trying to raise money for a project, I'm literally trying to tell everyone this elevator pitch. I'm literally trying to direct the conversation towards this elevator pitch. So like I said, with this journey, right, you're in the beginning of this journey, you just need to tell everyone your goal, tell everyone your intention. Don't really be annoying about it, but just share your heart. People love to hear about people's dreams and their goals and wanting to help seniors and wanting to make a difference. You are trying to do something that's very noble and a beautiful thing, loving and helping seniors at the end of life. So people will appreciate it. They will want to hear it. They're not going to hate on you for it. So just open your mouth, put it in your social, and just work it into like every conversation that you have. Okay, so that's my elevator pitch. That's my phase 1. So I'm trying to move them to phase 2. Phase 2, I'm actually sitting down and I'm having a presentation with them. And maybe presentation's too fancy of a word. It's very low pressure. And I do this in person. We'll literally meet like a coffee shop or Starbucks, or I'll do it on Zoom and I'll just share my screen and I'll go through my business plan. But this is where I go through and I use that tool, right? That tool that says your money is safe. So I think it is very, very important that you have really dialed in tools, because to me, my business plan, it's like my shield. It literally is like the first time I did this presentation, I was so nervous, right? Like I'm literally a newbie. I have no experience and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what are they going to, they're not going to want to invest with me. I know nothing about assisted living, right? Like I'm just a dude and his wife, and we just love people. We just want to serve people and help people, right? And I'm like, they're not going to want to hear anything I have to say. But my business plan, I had a very, I paid someone to make a beautiful business plan for me. And I spent a lot of time and energy having a lot of market research and putting all sorts of things in there. And what I did was I spiral bound it. I made it look really nice and beautiful on like 100 point thick paper. And I really felt like this was like my shield. It was like my safety, because I didn't really know what to say. So as I'm stumbling through this my first time, I use it as like my roadmap. And I literally put like little sticky notes, little tabs on the side of this thing. And I use it as a reference. So this is why I feel like it's a shield. And this is why I feel like it's so important that you spend the time and the energy on great tools, because while I'm sitting there and I'm nervous as heck, and I'm like, I don't know what to say, I literally opened up to the first tab. And then I read the thing, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see here. All right, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about the baby boomers. And then I gave a little like 30-second thing, and I looked, I'm like, what do I say next? I grabbed the next tab, I flipped it over, and I said, oh, cool, market research. All right, let me tell you about the market research that I did in my city, right? And then I'm like, next tab, okay, oh, bed rates, perfect, right? Let me tell you about my bed rates and what everything's going to look like and what my vision is, right? And I used it as a template, as a roadmap. And I think if I didn't have that, if I just sat down and I said, well, I want to buy a house and fix it up and put some seniors in it, and like that's not going to be the same, right? If you can sit there with a beautiful business plan, and really, as I was going through this, I said the number one thing that investors want is to know that their money is safe, right? I used everything that I said and I framed it for them, showing that your money is safe. Now, I never said the words, your money is safe. I just implied every single time. So like, for examples, we'll talk, I pull open a tab and I'm talking about the baby boomers. And we're saying, hey, here's the statistics on the baby boomers. And I'm saying, here's the amount of seniors in my area. And I did my market research, and I'm implying your money is safe because I did all these things. Then I'm going through and I'm like, okay, I did secret shopping and I'm looking at bed rates, and this is what it's going to be. And it's, there's a huge need for it in this area. Implied your money is safe. So I think it's really important that you are able to use this structure, but you're presenting it in a way that takes care of their biggest objective. How do I know that my money is safe? And how do I know I'm going to get it back? So this whole part, me going through the business plan, it's about 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, if I was uninterrupted and just kind of went through it. It's nothing crazy long. And then from there, my objective is I want to move them to the next phase. I want to move them to phase 3. Now, I intentionally separate phase 2 and phase 3. It's really the same meeting, but it's my business plan and then it's my financials. And I like to be low pressure on this. I want to ask, I want to transition between the business plan, which is more of like an overall, here's my intention, here's my vision, here's what I'm doing. It's not the exact like breaking down numbers and getting into those kind of things. So after I have overviewed my business plan and I've said everything, telling them and implying that their money is safe, I let them ask any questions. And before I move on, I will literally ask permission. And I think asking permission to move on to the next thing is very important, because it's very low pressure and you're not being pushy, especially when you're talking about money and people's retirement, things like that. You want it to be very, very light and go with the flow. So for me, I will transition and I'll say, hey, so what do you think? I showed, my vision. Here's what I want to do. Here's why I think it's gonna be so successful. I have some more information here, right? I have this packet going through all the numbers and the financials. Do you want me to share it with you? Because sometimes they might just say no. They might be like, no, Brett, this is not for me, right? And I want to give them that opportunity to respect that. But another thing is they may say, hey, Brett, I'm really into this. I like this. But, I wish my wife was here, my husband was here, my partner was here, right? Like maybe we can schedule this for another time. But most times, literally like almost every single time, people are like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Tell me about it. Can you show me right now? And so it's literally just one meeting, but I like to break it into 2 parts because I want to be very low pressure and because it's easy for me to understand that here's kind of phase 2 and here's kind of phase 3 next. So let's talk about phase 3. So phase 3 of this 3-part presentation is going over my financials. And again, I've said before that the objective is that their money is safe and they get a great return. So I will spend the next, 5 or 10 minutes going through the financials. And as I'm pointing out all the numbers, I'm implying that this is a great return, that this is a home run of a deal. Now, I'm never getting into, in this part of it, I'm never getting into what they're going to make, what the numbers are for them. I'm just implying that the deal overall, that there's great cash flow, there's a huge equity play, that it's a home run of a deal. And, if you wanted to be part of this deal, you're going to share in some way. I haven't told you how, but you're going to share in some way of this home run of a deal. So I will use this and I'll go through the same thing. And I literally did the same thing. I went over to like FedEx and I got really thick paper and made it all glossy and had a nice little presentation package all put together for this thing. And I put the little tabs on it as well. And I'm showing people, okay, here's my cash flow. Here's my best case scenario. Here's my worst case scenario. What are we looking like until we're stabilized? What are we looking like 2 years from now? Going through all sorts of different questions. And I'm putting little tabs in there and talking through these things with them. So some of the things you may need to figure out is how much money do I need to raise? Right. So I'm not going to get into that tonight, but I'm going to put that into my presentation. They're going to want to know, like, okay, well, how much money do you need to raise? Is it 50 grand? Is it 500 grand? Right? They need to know that they are or are not a potential investor based on the amount of capital. How much time until you're stabilized, right? You're going to borrow the money. You're going to start construction. How long until you're finished? How long until you've leased up? How long until you're making a profit? That's an important thing to tell a potential investor. And then what is your net profit after you're stabilized, right? Again, and stabilized means that you're complete. You got your license. You're full. You're operating. Right? You're now bringing in money, bringing in cash flow. What is the net profit after you have been stabilized? And then I think it's important to tell people what's the worst case scenario. And if your deal has a worst case scenario that like is really unacceptable, then maybe you should look at a better deal. But I want to go through and say, okay, hey, here's my worst case scenario. And for me, I want to do a deal. I like doing luxury 16s because the numbers are huge. And my worst case scenario is still a great deal. And it's really hard to fail with those kind of numbers. So I want to go through and share all of these things going through within. And it's really about a 5 or 10 minute thing. And I'm going to share all these things. And then I'm just going to let them ask questions. And again, I'm not at this point getting into what kind of percentage or interest rate or equity. I'm not getting into any of those kind of things yet. I just want to know, I want them to know that their money's safe and this deal is a home run, that they're going to get a great return by investing in this type of deal. So let's talk about the next part. Let's talk about deal structure, because we're going to make an offer to them soon, and we need to know how to make this offer. What type of terms do we want to offer when we're going to do this? So this will really get into our deal structure. And I like to keep things very simple. And for me, the simplest way to look at things is I'm going to be raising money with debt, or I'm raising money with equity. So if you're going to raise money with debt, it means you're borrowing money, right? You're going to have a note and a deed of trust against the real property, and you have to pay that money back, right? It's a loan, right? So you may have a second or third position loan after the bank, right? And I've done that, and we'll talk about that. Or you may raise money with equity. And again, equity is they are investing in the company. They have a percentage in the company, and maybe the real estate company, and maybe the operations company, and maybe both companies, but they are giving you money into the company and they are taking a piece of that company. So there are pros and cons to both, and we'll talk through that. So I'll show you a little bit of case study of how I did both of these type of deals and why it is an advantage in one side and an advantage going the other way in maybe different scenarios. Okay, so this is Platinum Resort in Georgetown on Mesa. And this is the one where I raised 1.1 million. And I raised this money with debt, meaning that I borrowed all the money. I literally borrowed like the entire thing. I had some of my own money in the very beginning, and then I was able to raise additional funds to get my money back out. So let's talk about this. Raising money with debt. So there's pros and cons to both sides of this, right? everyone thinks like, oh yeah, I want to have 100% ownership. I want to own it all myself. All right. That is one of the advantages of raising money with debt. It's myself and it's my wife, and we own 100% of the whole thing, right? We have a bank loan, and then we got private loans after that. And we were able to raise all of the money. Now, that's potentially a great thing, right? There's 100% ownership in there, and that's an advantage. So what I did, and I want to share this little trick, the strategy that I use, and this was a huge win for me, and I've done this several different times, but I have this document called the Participating Loan Agreement, and it's really a two-part document. Part one of it is a note and deed of trust, and then part one references part two. Part two is really a profit-sharing agreement. And so I use this document in order to raise funds. And let's just say if you wanted to raise, 1.1 million, and the bank's going to give you 800,000, the first 800,000 is probably a lot easier to raise than the second 300,000, right? Because that person is going to be in second position, and they're going to have a potentially weaker position if things go bad. So where I'm going with this is it's harder to raise the end money, and I call that money the gap, right? Because the bank is going to lend you the majority of the money. It may be 80%, it may be 90%, right? And if you needed to raise this much money, 100% of your money, the bank's going to give you the majority of it. But that little bit of money left, that's the gap, right? It's the gap between what the bank's giving you and what you need. And that's really the hardest money to raise. And that's where the investor comes in. So for me to incentivize my potential investor in order to invest and be in a potentially more risky position than the bank, because the bank can foreclose and take it before my potential investor could, I use this participating loan agreement because we found a great win-win with this. So let me talk about what this is and how this worked out. Now, I'll give you an example. Now, this was 4 or 5 years ago, and interest rates were a lot lower than they are now. But what I did at the time is I did a 5 and 5 deal, and I'll explain what that means. But really, it's this participating loan agreement has two parts, and that's each part is a 5 in this example. And I gave the first part, right? It's a loan and a deed of trust. So there's real property that's securing the loan, and then they're going to get interest payments no matter what. It's in the loan. It's in the note, right? So they got a 5% interest that is going to be guaranteed. That's what they're going to get, or they can foreclose. The second part was the other 5, and that's a profit sharing agreement. So when I am successful and I make money, they get 5% of that net profit. So they are rooting for me to win, right? Now we worked up our pro forma, and I shared all these numbers with them, and it ended up being all right, they're going to get their 5% on their gap funds they're lending, but then they're also going to get about a 17% return if I hit my numbers, right, on my profit sharing agreement. So they had a huge win on both of these sides. So I set this up because I know two things, right? Investors want their money to be safe, and they want to make a great return. So with this kind of example, their money is secured by real property, right? There's a loan against the property. Their money is definitely safe. And then with the profit sharing agreement, they're going to get a great return. They're actually going to get a piece of the action. And it was a very strong deal, 16 bedrooms. And again, it's like a luxury high-end market in assisted living. So we were making great cash flow. So the investor was really excited about this kind of deal. So what I love about this is I raised this money, and then about 24 months after I had owned the building, I went to a local bank, a local commercial loan, and I refinanced the whole building out. Again, so I was 1.1 million in, and then again, within just a couple years, the property had appreciated to more than double that. So I went and got a new loan, commercial loan from a local bank, and I paid off the first loan, the 800,000. I paid off the second loan, the 300,000, and I took a low loan to value loan. And what I did, so he got his money back. What I did was I wrote in the deal. in the participating loan agreement that after he gets the money back, he is still going to receive that part of the profit sharing agreement until I own or until I don't own the assisted living. So he's got his money back, right? It's been over a year, something like that. And he still gets paid that additional 5%. So this is why it was such a win for him, because he's got number one and number two, he's got safety, he's got a great return, and then he gets his money back, and then he's still getting cash flow. It's free money to him. He's got the money back. He has reinvested already with me in another project. He's got his money back. He's still making interest on it. And now he's making interest on the new deal that we're on together. So this can be a huge, huge win. And I think it's really important that you can use this type of structure to do some of these deals for yourself to get that gap money that's usually a little bit harder to raise. So this is the how I did it for my first assisted living. The next project we have here, we're building these memory care mansions, and I said they're about 10,000 square feet each. We bought 8 acres, so we have to put in a lot of infrastructure on this, all these roads and do all this land kind of work. So we're going to be about 10 million all in on this project. And for me, that's a big number. And I didn't want to come up with a down payment for that kind of number. So I brought in an equity partner on this instead of going the way I did before, where I raised debt. This way I raised equity. So somebody is giving the business money, they're giving the business, they're injecting capital into the business, and they are taking equity in the deal instead of having a loan against the company. So let's talk about this, because there's pros and cons to both of this. And I think it's important to start by saying that when you're doing these type of deals, assisted living deals, you have a real estate company and you have an operations company. So you really have 2 separate companies, and you potentially have 2 separate deals. So as you're considering setting something up like this, a deal structure, you do not have to offer the same percentage on the real estate as you do on the operations company. You can have it one way or the other. It can be all real estate. It can be and no operations company, or it can be a different percentages, or it can be all real estate and no operations company. It can be a profit sharing agreement on the operations company. So there's a bunch of different ways to structure this, but I want you to at least have a takeaway that they don't have to be the same. They're not tied together. The real estate and the operations company are 2 separate deals that you can structure or negotiate either way. So let's talk through this here. So you have your real estate company, and as we're going to compare and contrast these, right? Okay, the real estate company and the operations company. The investor has a legitimate higher risk with the real property, with the real estate, especially if you're going to build new construction. There may be 12 months where there's a pretty decent risk to that person because your product is not stabilized. It's not built. If things go bad, right, you really just can't put it on the market and sell it because your product's not done. You don't have a license yet. So there is a higher risk in that time period for your investor. And I think that because of that, your investor needs to be compensated for that risk. Again, they may have to, and you probably will, have to personally guarantee this loan. So there, again, is more risk on this side, especially when you are under construction and you're not stabilized. But there's a big reward. The reward is the equity. When you're going to build something, especially if you're going to build new construction, what we are building at, I mean, it's about 50-60% of what the value is going to be once we have our license, right? There is a huge equity play for us as we're doing this. So we're building, again, about $10 million in cost, but it's nearly double that by the time we're full and have our license. There's a huge equity play on this. So I think as you are setting up these negotiations, you're talking about what percentage of equity can I give on the real estate side. I think that the investor has a legitimate risk more so in this time period, and they should have a favorable equity play in that. Now, you can pick any number you want. It can be 50-50, it can be 70-30. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you and them. But I just want to kind of talk through the pros and the cons on these things. Okay, so it is separate than the operations company. right? So you're going to have your LLC for the operations company. It's going to be collecting the rent from the grandmas and grandpas, paying the staff, right? It's totally different than your real estate, right? That operations company is going to be paying rent to the real estate company. Your real estate company will be paying the mortgage to the bank. Okay, so the operations company has higher risk to the operator. And what I mean by higher risk, it's not necessarily much of a financial risk or legal risk or lawsuit risk. It's really a time risk, right? That first year or two, I mean, anyone who's opened their own assisted living, you know that it's not an easy business. It is hard that first year, right? You're going to be there nights, weekends, you're building your culture, you're getting your staff ready. I mean, the amount of overnight shifts my wife worked, the amount of time she wiped butts when she said she was never going to do it. I mean, I don't know, it's got to be 1,000 times already. So thankfully I've never had to do it, but there is a legitimate risk to your time, to your family time, right? You can be having to be there every single day for that time until you're stabilized. So you have to cover shifts. So there is a higher risk on that side. But there is a big cash flow play potentially on this side of the company as well, where you can have big wins, especially as we're talking about some of these bigger assisted livings. You know, we're doing 16, or if you're doing 20 or 30, especially if you're doing like a luxury assisted living, you know, we're pushing $8,000, $9,000 a bed. And there's huge cash flow plays on these type of assisted livings. So I think that on this side of the deal, on this company, that should favor the operator, right? They should have a higher percentage on this side because their potential time is at risk, their family time, and they're the one really building this thing, building the brand, building the reputation, taking care of the grandmas and grandpas. So as you are structuring this, you can really structure this however you like, but just keep in mind that there are two separate sides to this equation, and one may favor one side and one may favor the other side. So kind of take that into account and just have a takeaway that they don't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be 50-50. You can set it up however you would like to set it up. So now that we've talked through some of these deal structure things, let's talk about your offer, because you are now at this point, you've gone through, you've been telling your story, you've gotten some people interested, you've been giving your elevator pitch, you've had a couple coffee meetings, you're going through your presentation, you're sharing your business plan, you're sharing your financials, people are interested, you have brainstormed, here's what I want to offer, right? I want to offer debt or I want to offer equity. So now we need to talk about, how do I do this offer? What kind of offer do I give? So I like to think about my offer like bracketing. And bracketing, they're almost like guardrails for me on the freeway, right? Like so you don't go off on either side, right? They're a bracket. They're going to keep you in the lane. So on one side of my bracketing, I have my non-negotiables. These are the things that I will not do. No matter what, I will not do this. So this is one bracket for me. I cannot go past this. This is my non-negotiables. Okay, so write out, what are your non-negotiables? It may be, I will not raise too little amount of money. So you may have a presentation and someone's like, Brett, I love this. I want in, sign me up right now. I am your guy. I got this, right? And they're like, I have $10,000 to invest. You're like, well, that doesn't really do me any good. I need $100,000, right? Like I don't need $10,000. So some of the things may be too little money, or maybe they say, Brett, I'm in. I just want 51% of the company. I just want majority voting rights. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. All right, that's a non-negotiable for me. Or perhaps the interest is too high. They want 20% interest. They want 90% equity, right? Like those are things I'm not going to do. So go through and figure out, what are your non-negotiables, because it's going to create one side of your bracket, one side of your barrier. Now on the other side, right, that's my best case scenario. So I have now my non-negotiables and my best case scenario. So I want to know, what is my best case scenario? And for me, I may say, okay, I want to do this deal. And my best case scenario is I want to raise $100,000 and I want to raise it at 8% or 10%, whatever the interest rate is. And I want to raise the money for 5 years. And let's see, no prepayment penalty. And I want the money in 60 days. That may be like my best case scenario. right? I've listed out some terms. This is what I want to do. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with my best case scenario. And usually this is usually not at that same meeting. It's usually not, this is usually like a separate meeting. Like we'll usually set up another meeting, another coffee date, another Zoom. They're going to bring their wife or partner or husband or whoever it is, the thing. We're going to sit down and we're going to like kind of get into it a little bit, right? My presentation is more overview. This is the next part of it where I'm saying, hey, here's an actual offer. Here is what we can actually do together. So when I'm going to give my offer, I'm not going to start with my worst case offer. All right. I'm not going to be like just above my non-negotiables. I'm going to start with my best case scenario. And for me, I like to do low pressure. I think it's the easiest way for me to be comfortable doing this because it's already kind of a little uncomfortable, a little awkward, right? So what I want to do, I love this word track. I love the magic wand word track. So for me, I'll say, hey, you know, I don't really know what's a win-win for you, but I want us to find a win-win. So, you know, here's kind of what I was thinking. If I had a magic wand, and I always start that way. If I had a magic wand, and what I love about it is that, you know, this is your magic wand offer. Like if I had a magic wand, it would be this. It has nothing to do with, you know, being overly greedy or asking for too much because you don't know what they're going to come back with. I think if you have a magic wand, it like takes the low pressure away. Here's just what I would say if I had a magic wand, right? So for me, I'm going to start with my best case scenario. Hey, you know, if I had a magic wand, I would want something like this, right? I would want to raise $300,000 and pay 8% interest and have, you know, a term of 5 years and make quarterly payments and, you know, whatever the case, right? Here's what I can do. So I'm going to give my best case scenario offer, and then I'm going to say nothing. I'm going to be quiet. And sometimes it's a long, awkward silence, like crickets, man. Like, especially if they have some negotiating skills, they'll just say nothing also. And then you're like, oh, geez, man, we're like at a minute already, right? Like, no, but seriously, like, don't give your best case scenario and then negotiate against yourself. Literally just embrace the silence, give your best case scenario, and then just be quiet and let them speak next, right? So we've talked about bracketing, right? Best case and your non-negotiables. So literally somewhere in there is where your deal is, right? You can negotiate anywhere within this bracket because here's your best case and here's your non-negotiables. Anything outside of this, you're not going to do. And this is your best case. So now you have a template. I think it's pretty easy to understand if you have this bracket and you can say, okay, well, here's what I can do. Oh, no, I can't do that, but I can do this, right? Like that's what I love about bracketing. So this is your offer, right? We've talked through all of this stuff. We talked about deal structure, how to make your offer here. That is really the structure that I have used multiple times and I continue to use, and I've raised a lot of money with it, but it's pretty dang simple. It's really the same process just over and over again every time I want to do this. And I think it's pretty simple. And I really want to kind of lead or kind of start wrapping up with this, that I think that you all have amazing dreams to open your own assisted living. And I know that if you're here, you want to do this because you want to love people. And I think that's super, super admirable. And I think that you should really pursue this. You should go after your dreams because not only does you and your family deserve it, but all of those seniors, all of those grandmas and grandpas, they need somebody who can make a difference also. So that is really me wrapping this up here. I want to tell you that I did it and I'm nothing special. And so you can do it. If you want free resources, I have a bunch of videos on this. There is my YouTube here and my podcast, my website, palm.university. There's a bunch of free videos. There's a bunch of free resources for download. And I really think that I really dislike big box, right? I think that they provide terrible care. And I really want to encourage the smaller assisted living owner operator to get out there and do it, because literally people like you and we make a huge difference to these seniors. And I think it's super, super special. So that's it. Let's see here. Oh, last slide. Okay, here's my email. I did put it into the chat. So if you want to reach out, if you want to work with us, again, we are investing in one new building per month. And we're literally using our exact blueprints, our architect, our engineer, our preferred lender, and pretty much a cookie cutter product, business in a box that we want to build all over the place. So that's it. Again, my name is Brett Shuckavis, and I'm really hopeful and excited for you. And I hope that this was a big help for you.
That was great, Brett. Do we have any questions from anybody? You can raise your hand or you can just speak up.
Yes,
Brian, go ahead.
I had a couple questions. One, securities, I'll just give you all three and you can address them any way you want to, Brett. How much were you raising? And I guess that's going to be a debt and equity type of question. And you partially answered the question. Are you also still a caregiver at those homes? And it sounds like maybe your wife is providing the caregiving. And talk about the securities considerations vis-a-vis your investors.
Sure.
Those are the three.
Okay, wonderful. So my wife and I own and operate ourselves. We have two managers that run the day-to-day. And I really, really love the two manager system that we have. And we talk about it on our YouTube channel, our podcast. But it allows us to pretty much work a 4-hour work week. I really don't ever go into the assisted living any longer. And my wife goes in about once a week. We do our KPIs and our weekly manager meeting. But it really allows us to focus on helping people and real estate and the other things that we do. So that's really what I love about this niche and about especially what we do with the upscale 16 bed, where we're pushing, $120,000 a month in gross income from our grandmas and grandpas rent. It allows for two managers and a chef and around the clock, multiple caregivers. And really for me, the biggest thing is I want to have time with my kids. And we pay our staff the most out of everybody. We pay for two managers when we don't need to. That way I pretty much don't have to be that caregiver. It was a hard year, that first year. Literally, like I said, we had no experience. I was there learning everything, learning all the ropes. And my wife was, again, it was through COVID, right? And that was a frustrating time. Somebody would say they have COVID and then they couldn't come in for 2 weeks. And then they had to quarantine and you're working the floor because, your staff got, COVID or whatever the case is. So that's kind of where we're at now. We have systematized our business and our process to pretty much be out of the system, out of operating. Let's see, your other question about securities. Again, I talked to my attorney about this before I went and did these things. And one thing that I can say is I never really get into marketing specific offers. I will use statements of, oh, here's something we did in the past, right? Like on our previous deal, our investor made such and such. But really for me, it's mostly just friends and family that I'm talking to. But as you're going through this journey, you may consider reaching out to an attorney. I did on the front side just to kind of cross my T's and dot my I's and make sure I wasn't going to get in trouble with anything. And then what was your first question? That I missed one.
It was how much money were you raising? And I understand that you're going to have to break that down a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. I think that any size deal you want to do, you can raise the money for. And really it's going to come from two factors here. The lender will lend 80 or 90, sometimes more than that %. And so whether you're raising, $1 million like I did or $10 million, you're a pretty wide perspective on capital raise. It can be done. So again, you can use the local banks or potential SBA company or banks to do that. But then you may need to, depending on your cash situation, come in with the potential investor. And again, you have the options, right? Pros and cons on debt and equity. For me, it was a matter of on doing a bigger deal. I felt more comfortable raising equity. And I went with someone that I had worked with before. Again, I have a real estate background and we've purchased multiple properties with this individual before. So we have a trust situation here. So you can go either way with debt or equity on that.
So by size, I was actually referring to, so what was like the minimum you were asking for from the individuals for debt or equity? Minimum that you were requesting from them? I mean, you made a general reference, say 10,000 is too small, but what were you looking for when you were asking from the investors?
Yeah, so that'll be case by case. If you are talking about on the debt side, and you can, so let's say you have first position with the bank, and in my example, right, I had 800,000 of my 1.1 million, right? So the banks, the first position loan is taking the majority of that. You can, and I needed to raise 300,000. I can go and ask for 300,000, especially if I'm talking about a debt position. And somebody may say, well, Brett, I have 100,000 or I have 200,000. And then for me, I can literally decide whether I want to do that or not, because I can put them in a second and then potentially put someone in a third if I wanted to also. And I think this is where that profit sharing agreement comes as a tool that you can really leverage on that. On the other side, on the equity side, again, if you're going to be giving, 20% or more, then it's going to be in a situation where your equity partner is going to have to personally guarantee. So that is another consideration to look at is, are they in a position where they want to do that? What are their financial, situations? And if you're doing a bigger deal, you may just want to commit and bring someone on, bring the right person on who has the capital reserves, who has the good balance sheet that can personally guarantee, and that's part of what they're bringing to the table. And you potentially reward them with a bigger piece of equity.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome.
We have a question from Pat.
Hi again, Brett.
Hi.
Hey, so my question is that wait time. So for my first deal, I initially planned on going through the SBA, and it became just a monstrous situation, right? And we were running out of time because we had actually a residential home that we were trying to purchase. So I ended up structuring a debt deal, right? I got a regular real estate loan, and then I got some loans from some close friends, things like that. As I move forward to try to do a bigger deal now, what do you do, or how do you manage that time in between getting the commitment from your investor and actually getting that bank loan to come through?
That's a really good question. Okay. So the way I do it is I will actually have a loan in between those two. And what I mean by that is if I'm going to buy vacant land and I'm going to build new construction, I will go to a local bank and I will actually get a loan to purchase just the real estate, right? I may just do a 20% down. I'm going to purchase the land, or perhaps it's a building and you're going to do a big renovation. The same principle applies. You're going to get a relatively smaller loan to take down the land or take down the building. And then from that point, you're going to get all your ducks in a row. You're going to go through permits and planning, architect and engineering. You're going to submit to the city. You're going to get all your permits done. And then you're going to bid out to a builder or a contractor. Once you have all those kind of things in a row, then I'm going to go back to the bank, and it may be the same bank or maybe a different bank. You can bring in SBA at that point, and then they're going to go through the process and the hoops and do an appraisal. And once they do the loan, they will pay off that first loan that you had. So that's really the process that I'm going through now. You just got to throw a little half step in there with some type of either a loan to take down the land or property, or you're bringing in an equity investor on the front side, and perhaps they're paying cash for that land. So that's what we did. We actually came in, my equity partner came in, paid for the land in cash, and now we own the property free and clear. We spent the next year or so going through engineering, architects, then all the way through all the permits, and then bidding out to the contractor. And now I'm at the point where I have all of this wrapped up, all these things lined up. And now I can go back to SBA and say, okay, here's my product. Here's what it's going to be. And now they are looking at the whole thing and saying, okay, well, now we're going to do an appraisal, and here's what the future value of your building is going to be. And we're going to lend X, Y, and Z based on that. And now we're going to pay, well, I guess in this example, my investor paid cash. Now that cash is used as part of the down payment, right? So if, let's say, you're going to do an SBA loan at 10%, the cash that you put down to purchase the land is not lost towards your down payment. It can be used dollar for dollar towards your down payment. Does that make sense or help?
Wow, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Brett, this is Paul Tarnowski calling. I'm living in New Hampshire and in the midst of building a 18-bed in Massachusetts, and we're starting from
Awesome.
scratch. I have a builder who has just purchased the 2-acre lot of property for me, but the point that I'm at now, I have the project is going to be about 4.1 million. So
Okay.
I can do some debt. I can do, just 75, 80% of debt, or 80%. And then I also have an investor that is willing to, 1 or 2 investors that are willing to fund the whole thing.
Okay.
So what is going to be the best scenario for me in the short term and the long term? Where do I have to be from for a return standpoint, an interest standpoint, as to what is going to be comfortable in your mind to propose to him?
Gotcha. So I think the first thing to consider before we're talking about that is, you talked, I think you said it was a $4-point-something million project, but how much other reserves do you need? What are the soft costs there, right? If you're building new construction, you're probably 12 to 15 months of construction plus, licensure and then lease up. You might not be making a profit until maybe month 20 if all things go well. So how many, what is going to be your interest payment during those 20 months? And then, what is my FF&E and my utilities and insurance, everything, right? What's that number going to look like? And then add that on to your 4 point, whatever number you said. And now we make it your new number, which may be closer to, 5.5, something like that. And I would start with that number in mind. And then from there project, okay, what is my best path here? Because especially with interest rates right now, right? If a lot of things are in the 8s and the 9s right now. They're not in the 4s like they were a year ago. And man, when I was projecting my project, when I bought this land about 18 months ago, I was estimating 4.5% interest. And now I'm estimating 9% interest. So it's a massive, massive difference that I had to account for. So I say this to make sure you're thinking about these things, because it can be a very, very big number now, especially if you're talking, 20 months of interest reserves plus, FF&E. What does that look like?
That's what you're talking about, having to give to the bank if you go the debt route.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but if I go the equity route and I say, okay, Peter, you can give me the 4.1 million, how do I structure that offer to him? So, what I'm saying? Like, he's going to have to, he's going to have to guarantee it. He's going to, I mean, my thing is that the equity follows the cash, right? If he's given me 100% of it, I can't give him 100% of the business, but I can give him 80%.
I wouldn't do that deal.
So, I mean, what is something that's feasible?
Well, again, I would start with your best case scenario. And for me, I would ask for 50%. And you may work something else in there. Maybe it's maybe maybe there's a loan to the company, right? Maybe he's going to get, you know, a certain percentage, maybe a lower percentage paid back towards this, or something to that effect. But I wouldn't go so small, like to only have 20% of this. And I would say it from this perspective is, assisted living is a hard industry. It's not for the meek, and your reward needs to be big enough for you to be successful. And I would tell him that bluntly, like, hey, like I need to have a big enough win on my side for when my staff all quit and, you know, XYZ happens, that I'm going to be here showing up. I'm going to be managing this thing. And if I don't have a big enough win on my side, then it puts you in a weaker position. So, again, I would probably start with 50%, and
So 50% equity from him and 50% debt from the bank.
oh, well, that's not what I was saying, but that may be a better, another option, right? The bank may be able to do a, you know, 80% loan, on this. And now he's bringing in only like $1 million plus holding costs. So maybe 1.5 million or something to that effect. So if he's bringing in only 1 or 1.5 million, then he lowered his risk substantially. And
Right.
then from that perspective, hey, you know, 50% sounds like a good deal. And maybe you just start with, you know, 50% on this, on the real estate. I wouldn't lowball yourself on the real estate, because that's really where your retirement is. That is your exit strategy. That is your big win. I'm going to cash out and I'm going to, you know, move to Hawaii, right? Don't cut yourself short on the exit play. But then you can negotiate from there on the other side of this, which is the operations company. So is it just going to be one building, or is there going to be a second building?
Well, we're doing it as a proof of concept first, so it's going to be one, and then there's another 9/10 of an acre down the street, 1.5 miles, where
Okay.
I'm going to put a 10-bed memory care on there.
Okay.
And then the next town over, I have 7 acres where I can put in 4 18-bed homes, some of which
Yeah.
are going to be assisted living and some are memory care.
Okay.
So there's
But those
you know,
are separate
total of
deals.
6 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
but
But
they're
the
all
one deal,
separate.
it wasn't like there was a phase 1 and phase 2
No,
on that one
not at this
APN.
point. I mean, once we get the first one going, we see if we have a waiting list, then we can get
Yeah.
the second one going, and third and fourth. But after that, things fall into place.
Yeah. If it was me, I would structure it similar to what I just said. I would talk to a local commercial lender that will offer 80%. See where, yeah, I was just told that that PNC was offering relatively pretty competitive rates. So that may be someone you look out to, but just talk to local commercial lenders. I would try and do 80% loan. So now you're getting a loan for 3 million. Someone's going to come in for 1 million, and now his risk is substantially lower, which means his equity ask should be lower also.
Yeah, and that's I
And,
have a term sheet from the bank. They're willing to do 75 to 80%.
Okay.
But I was
Yeah.
trying to just get your perspective if I should kind of go that route, or would you do more equity?
Yeah, I would
My
probably do
thought is
that.
to take as little equity as possible, so that you know, there's less hands in the pot, number one, and there's more to keep for myself.
I'd like to
Mhm.
interject here, Paul.
Sure.
In my opinion, debt is always cheaper than equity,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
long-
that's what, if I get 8% versus what he may want at 10 or 10.5, you know, it's a lot more palatable to me.
Yeah, even if you gave him more than what, you know, even hard money is cheaper than equity.
Yeah.
Seriously here. And the other thing I would say too is, I'd never do a 50-50 deal. Someone's got to have control. So 51-49, 60-40, something like that.
Yeah, that was a good point.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you.
hmm
Any other questions?
I have a question. So in your deal where you raised $10 million and you said each home was about 2.3 million, how much equity did you give up in each property, or overall if you didn't separate it that way?
Sure. So like I said, I separate the real estate from the operations company. So in this specific deal, I have 50% of the real estate and I have 67% of the 4 operations companies because they're separate LLCs. Yeah, you're welcome. I negotiated for higher, but that was what I got.
Good question. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a quick question. In regards to, the security of the money and return on investment, on the security of the money, how do you leverage your senior care experience? So say, you've been an operator for senior living and you would like to leverage that to secure a loan. How can you leverage your operator experience to secure a loan to build your own senior living? And then my second question for those of you who have developed your own homes, once you have the complete, product and the product is ready, how do you secure your return on investment by developing your centers or filling up your facilities? How are you sourcing your clientele to fill up that facility to get your return on investment?
Okay, so first question, how do you leverage your experience? I would say you most likely will need some type of experience to get this type of a loan. And it's not, not exclusively, but it's really, really going to help whether you have some type of business experience or some type of medical or caregiver experience for opening assisted living, whether you're looking at a local commercial bank or whether you're looking at SBA, they will look more favorably on you for that. So I think from that perspective, as you are writing out your business plan and your bio, you want to stack your experience in that thing and you want to make it pretty clear. Here's all my experience and here's why I am going to be a success as an operator. And I would say that with that experience, you will hopefully get more potential lenders who are interested in your deal and potentially have more room to negotiate with those lenders for better terms because you have some more experience and potentially you have more options with that. Does that help or does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Can I add something to that, Brett?
Sure.
Some of the deals that we've seen structured, and again, I'll remind you guys, I'm a certified business intermediary. But if you're going to be the manager, let's say, administrator manager of that business, and let's say you've got 40%, and they've got 60, or you've got 60 and they've got 40. One way that we like to see that structured is a management fee that's paid for your services. And that may be 5-7%, something along those lines of the gross is what we typically see as a management fee. And you can always find out from other management companies what that fee might be for your size property. And then after that fee is paid, then the profits would be split by that 60-40, let's say. So you get paid for your management services, and then you also get paid for your percentage of that business. That makes sense, Andy?
So that's, so Bren, that is when operator is the management or managing it.
Right. If you have somebody who's running the place for you and they're a partner in the deal, then they need to be paid a management fee or administrative fee on a smaller facility.
Yeah,
I see.
you can do that. You can also take a salary is another option, but it kind of accomplishes the same thing.
Yes, correct.
So your second question was on filling your beds. This is one of the things that my wife is phenomenal at. We have a huge wait list and we are literally like always full. So that's why we're going from 16 beds to 80 beds because we have just like 50 plus people on our wait list right now. And the thing that she does that has made the biggest difference for us is it's all about referral based networking. And I was actually on this call a few months ago with Vern and did a presentation on it, the 4 phases that we go through when we're doing this. But it's on YouTube. You can find it there. Vern can maybe throw a link in, but that may be a good place for you to start. I know that I think in this game, really the best way to fill your beds is all about relationships. It's all about referrals. I don't think that, you know, the pay-per-click and the AdWords, I don't think that really works for this industry. It's such a small niche industry with people in the industry who are home health and hospice, and they're going to assisted livings all day long, and then they're talking to the daughter. I think that there is so many potential leads to easily build a wait list with the right structure. And the structure that we use is really all based on referral. So we don't spend any money on marketing, and we have 50 people on the wait list, and we've been full with the wait list for like 3 years at no placement agents, no really marketing dollars spent. It's all based on referrals. And I think that's the best way to start with this.
Do you work with any local hospitals?
No, we don't. Mostly the local home health, hospice, different RNs, other assisted livings, independent livings. That's really the core bread and butter of people who are referring to us.
Got it.
What analytics or what company did you use to do your analytics, and were the analytics spot on?
What do you mean by analytics?
The data that you got for number of older people, was it census data in your area?
Probably like a feasibility study.
Talking about the market study or for your pitch deck?
Feasibility study, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've researched through all that kind of stuff, and to me, it's not as definitive as I would like something to be. I feel like it's just someone's. It's just kind of not solid for me. So for what I think, what I have the most weight on is secret shopping. So I will go and literally, like my first assisted living, I secret shopped literally 60 assisted livings within like the whole Austin metro area, for all the way north, all the way south. Like it was like a 80-mile difference. And then I built out a list of questionnaires for everything that I want to know. How full are they? What are their bed rates? What do they have? Private rooms, shared rooms, bath, no bath? How nice are they? Do they have a chef? All these kind of things. And I really use that because I got to a certain area where I am here in Georgetown, and I found that all of a sudden I got into this area, and now bed rates are $1,000 more than 20 minutes south. And now everyone's on a wait list when everyone south in Austin had like 60-70% occupancy. So I think that was, for me, the most important thing. And I think it's real because I'm walking in and I'm actually seeing the facility, and I'm talking to them, and I'm asking how many beds they have open. And I think that I put more weight to that. I will look at some of these statistics and market data and things like that. But man, I don't really know what that means. Those are just Excel sheets. I want to walk in and see that they have their assisted living is full of grandmas, and they tell me they got a wait list. And I think for me, that has a lot more weight and value.
So Brett, I have two more questions, shall I say. My first question is about the wait list. So I always teach that it's false. Whenever we get referrals, we get people that, either they have fallen and they're in the hospital and the family realizes that, they can't take them home, or a hospice is referring them. Long story short, by the time we get the referral, they have to move right then. Where would you say you're getting those? Where are your referrals until they get a space in your building? Are they in rehab or?
They come from all over. Let's see here. So there's a good percentage that come from rehab, but I think, let's see, I would probably break into 3 different categories. I would say rehab is 1. I would say from home is a 2nd. And I would say from a big box facility is a 3rd. We get a lot of our people from a big facility because they're sick of the big facilities. So I want to agree with you on your point about the wait list, about people needing placement right now. So for us, I mean, we have a weekly manager meeting. We go through these marketing KPIs every week. So every week I track and I want to know how many new calls, how many new leads came in. And so we have about 4 new leads every week. And then from there, I want to know how many tours we had. So we have about 2 tours every week. And then I want to know how many people got added to our wait list. So on average, it's about 1 person each week that adds to our wait list. So it's in an Excel, and I go and I look at it week by week, 1 through 52. And these are what my metrics average out to. So the person who came and toured 4 weeks ago that added to our wait list, they are not staying where they're at, right? They moved into some other facility. But nonetheless, I still have their contact info. And when we have a bed that comes open, we are going to do a big reaching out to, 50 plus people. And majority of them, some of them have honestly passed away. Some of them majority of them are in some big smelly facility. And then when we reach out, there's, when you do it on that volume, there's always 3 or 4 people that are like, okay, yeah, my mom's like, they're giving her bad care. And we've been hoping something else would open up, and we'll give a 30-day. So for us, we actually don't call down our wait list very often because there's statistically 1 person adding each week. So we just call who came last week and who came the week before, because I don't want to bring in someone who has to give a 30-day notice. I want to bring in someone who's at home or they're in rehab and they're ready to move in, in 2 days. So that's the way our wait list kind of works. It's kind of a game. But I want to have as many people in that basket so that when I do have an open bed, I can reach out to a ton of people and see who has a problem where they're at and if they want to move in now.
Great, thank you. And you actually led right into my second question. I was wondering, what kind of metrics do you track?
Yeah, so those are some of them, but actually on our website, you can download it. There's my secret shopping checklist. And then I actually have my manager KPIs are on there as a free download.
You're awesome. Thanks so much, Brett.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I have another question. This is Fran.
Hi.
What makes your house, or what kind of, like, is it a facility or is it a level of care that makes your house stand out to others? I mean, compared to others, what is one of the most important thing that stands out?
Okay. Well, if I guess the easy answer, I was hoping I could pull it up on my screen here and share my screen, but anybody who wants to pull it up on their own, platinumresortassistedliving.com, and then you can see our website. There's a virtual tour there. You can walk around virtually, like literally through every room in the house. But I think of this is in 2 parts. Our product is really 2 things. One is the physical building, and the second part of this is our service, is our care, right? So I want to be better than everyone else in both of those things. And what our niche is I want to offer all the care, amenities, service that you can get in the big 4-story facility. So we have private rooms, we have private bathrooms, we have a chef, we have a salon, we have nurses that are there. Anything that you need can be done in our home. Now, so if you can get all the services you can get at a big smelly Brookdale, but you can get it in like this custom designed mansion. Our home, it looks like Chip and Joanna came and designed this like modern farmhouse. So you check it out online and walk through it. But if you, I'm trying to set it up this way. If you are the daughter and you are touring 10 assisted livings and you've been through and they're all smelly and gross and you're kind of repulsed, and then you walk into ours and it's like, well, I can get all the same amenities and care. Mom's got a private room. She's got a private chef. She's got 24-hour care and people are here all the time. Like, why would I not put her here? And that's really the perspective that we're having. And that's why we have like a 90, I want to say 90% of the people who tour add to the wait list. Because like, I always think of this analogy, right? Like, we're not perfect. Okay. But you heard the expression, you don't have to run faster than the bear, just run faster than the person next to you, right? Like, I'm just trying to beat every big facility around, and I can do that relatively easy because it's a product that no one really wants in a post-COVID world. So if I can play them at their own game, offer all the same care and amenities, and I'm pricing compared to the luxury new construction big facility, I'm gonna match the most fancy big facility in price, in care, but it's gonna be more custom, more intimate, and smaller. Then it's pretty much a no-brainer for the daughter when she's touring.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, anybody else?
I have one more question. Sorry, Vern.
No worries.
So I'm kind of like interested in the topic where you brought up like earlier, I think buying a land first and then, just use that as a collateral or an equity if you pay it off with your. So do you think that's the best way to go? Or, buy a home that is already established or buy a residential home? What is your advice for that?
So I feel very, very strongly that that I want to do the right size assisted living. And when I first was doing this, I had a 6-bed and a 3-bed next door to each other, and I couldn't make any money doing those, and I really couldn't provide great care because I was pretty much breaking even every month. So for me, I think it's so important if you want to provide quality care that you can have the income and resources to be able to do that. And so what my niche is, what I really like is I don't want to be a quote residential assisted living. A residential assisted living has residential zoning, right? The city says you're residential, and I don't want my city to tell me how many beds I can have because I don't want them to limit my income. Now, most cities, they're going to say, hey, you can do this, but you're limited to 4 or 6 or 8 beds, maybe 10 if you're lucky. And I don't want to limit my income to that. I want to do as many as I can. So what I really like doing is I like going and talking to the planning department and finding out what zonings I can do this in. And you can always do it in commercial, but sometimes it's mixed use or multifamily or R4. And I want to either buy a property in that area and renovate it, or I want to build new construction in those areas. And I think of it like this. I really want to set myself up for success financially by not handcuffing myself or not allowing the city to handcuff myself with, oh, I want to do, 12, but they say I can only do 6. And I'm like, well, I already bought the property and it doesn't cash flow at 6. So now what do I do? Right. Like I want to set that up from the front side.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, Brett, someone asked for your website again in the chat, and I put palm.university.com, but when I'm trying to go to that in my browser, it's not coming up. Is that right?
No, will you put in platinumresortassistedliving.com?
Okay.
I tried to type it in, but I'm like in this reply directly to somebody, and I don't know how to undo it.
Platinum Resort Assisted Living.
Yeah, Platinum Resort assistedliving.com. Sorry, I have to look so my eyes are bad.
Brett, I have a question for you when you're ready.
Yeah, shoot.
Just kind of want to bounce off of what you were just talking about regarding residential care homes. I own residential care homes in a residential, obviously zoning area. I am caught in between. I'm in the medical field, so I hope I don't come across too harsh on our medical professionals, but I too do not like the big box product. And that's why I kind of got into this. So my question is with your real estate background, I am kind of caught between doing a larger commercial, but still small. So like you're saying, 16, 12, 18 bed, something around there, or continuing my path that I'm on right now in a residential setting and trying to leverage for the next step, which is then doing whatever I want to with my actual properties. Right now I own 4. I've got 3 more that I am about to be in possession of. And I don't know. Can you give me some feedback on, one versus the other? I don't know if you've ever done smaller. I just heard what you said about, you don't want anyone controlling your money, but what about the flip side of that and having all of that power with owning your properties?
Sure. So just to clarify your question, you said you own 4 and then you're acquiring 3 more. Are you talking about residential assisted livings?
I am acquiring properties
Okay.
that
So
I might
single
turn into
family?
residential. Correct, inheritance, correct.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, it really depends. I think they're 2 separate things, right? Like I buy residential properties and rentals and multi-unit things, and that's kind of a separate passive income stream. If you want to keep it as passive income, that's a different story. If you're looking to convert those into residential assisted livings, maybe that's your question. Do you try and go and open 4 or 6 residential assisted livings, or do you potentially sell that and open one bigger purpose-built assisted living? If it was me, that's what I would do. And I think you mentioned at the beginning of your question about you might have said, you said a big facility, right? Like 40 bed, or maybe you said something big. I think
No, I wouldn't do that big. The max I
Okay.
would do would be 16 beds.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to figure out in the long run, would it benefit me more just to have several, properties throughout the Metroplex? Obviously, that's, good. But even if I do run them temporarily as residential care homes, when I'm done with that, I could leave them like that and let someone else manage them, or I still have another option with the real estate.
You said you're in Texas?
I am.
Are you getting a license on them?
No, don't want to do that unless I go the 16-bed route, obviously. But the residential one, no, I do not want to.
Okay. Well, I would not recommend that. I know people who do have a bunch of little, 3, 4 beds. Just think of it like you're gonna invest all this time, build this business. The state can literally at any day, any moment come in and shut you down and literally shut your income down to 0 in one day from one caregiver complaint to the state. I think you're stacking the risk against you when you could take that potential equity and reinvest it into a bigger 16.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
I think I agree too. Is that like I have a couple of them too. Few of them too. Residential assisted living homes, 8 beds each. Staffing is another problem for that. Like if you have 116 or 20 beds or 30 beds, you can have like 2 staffs on the floor and you all get good with it. But if you have like more, and that's, I regret I'm running from it, but if you have, more little assisted, residential homes here and there, staffing is gonna be a problem.
Yeah, this is true. There's a lot more economy of scale when you have a bigger unit. I did a video a few months back and it's on my YouTube where I break down the numbers of 4 8-bed assisted livings versus it was 5 8-bed assisted livings make the same profit as 1 16-bed assisted living.
I agree.
So Brett, what about the real estate? I think one of the comforts with owning the residential house is the ease of resale, even if you're not selling it to another operator for assisted living or for residential care homes, versus when you start building the bigger 16-bed commercial properties. Of course, we've got the statistics with the baby boomers, but what if your time to sell is after the big boom in assisted living? What's the exit plan on the real estate then?
Well, I don't think that's really a concern of mine. The way I see the assisted living market, I see either too big or really too small. I don't see very many people who are doing this kind of like just right sized, a luxury 16, a purpose-built 16. And I can tell you that the numbers that we have and the people that we're partnering with, they're building at about 170 a square foot here plus land, and having 40% equity as soon as they have their license and they're full. There's a big equity play in those. And then once you have an operations and you're full, you can potentially list that for, clear $1 million on some of these deals. So that's really the perspective I'm coming from. I want to do, I got into real estate and I did tons of like these little tiny deals where I was barely making any money and having to do so many of them. And I wanted just to do one deal that was a big deal that would like set me up. And so that's really why I pushed into this space and what I really like about it.
Got it.
I think that's the trick too, is that like I mean, it's for me, I'm thinking about the value of the real estate then to make some profit and make myself grow. So I'm kind of like, okay, what if like it prices again, it values again, I mean, increases in values again, next year? Or what if I sell it and then, it's gonna be, or if I don't sell it and it devalues again, what am I gonna do? I think these are some of the things that we have to ask questions and make some very, very wise decision. And I'm in that state of mind right now. Okay, what do I do now? Or should I just keep on going and struggle like this, or should I just go and make some money and then just be free from it?
Yeah, that's a question for you to answer yourself. I went through the same thing a few years ago and I chose this decision.
Okay, well, we are way past our time. Great conversations. I'm going to open the floor for one more question, if there is one. Doesn't look like it. Brett, awesome job again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your
Do
time.
you have any class on this, Brad?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have any classes on this, or? Like,
I put a lot of free content on YouTube that you can check out, and our podcast also.
Terrific. Okay, well, we always allow a couple minutes at the end of the meeting if anybody has any wants or haves. So if you have a have or want to express it to the group, now is the time to do that. Do we have anybody?
I have a have. This is Pat again. So I noticed we have a lot of people in Texas on the line, and we have founded a one-stop shop for clinical compliance and assisted living, as well as HCS and PAS, including nurse delegation, online training, and compliance consulting. So my email address and website are in the chat. If you all need assistance from a clinical perspective, please reach out.
Terrific. Thanks, Pat.
Sure.
Anybody else, haves or wants?
I'll do a quick have. I am a experienced senior living operator. My experience is mostly for the big buck. I think what you guys refer to as the big bucks. And I am looking to partner with investors who would like to get into the residential assisted living and need an operator to work with. So my focus is just operations. My company is called Senior Living Market. You can check us out at seniorlivingmarket.com. I'm also available on LinkedIn, and I've also posted my email on the chat.
All right. And where are you located, Vandy?
Indiana and New Mexico. So Indiana for the Midwest market, and then New Mexico for the Southwest. I'm currently in New Mexico right now.
I see. Okay.
how do we download the chats again?
So where you put your information in, if you look down below, you'll see some little icons. One of them is a face, a smiley face. Just to the right of that is 3 dots. And if you click on the 3 dots, you can see up at the top of that menu is Save Chat. And that will save the text version of this chat onto your computer. So everybody make sure you go in there and save the chat before you leave. I'm going to wrap up the meeting. I will leave the floor open if you guys want to continue to chat or network amongst yourself, then we will leave this open until the last person is gone or there's no activity.
Can I ask you how do we access it once we save it?
So depending on where you save it, it should save it as let's see what mine does. I'm not sure where it saves it. It probably is going to create some Zoom folder on your hard drive.
It's just a save and then Chave sets, and then it's not taking us into anything else.
When you go into that general documents, that file folder probably on the bottom of your screen, and then you click into the documents tab, your computer should already have like a folder that says Zoom. If you click on Zoom, you can find today's date and it'll show the title.
Oh, got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Vern.
All right. Thanks everybody for attending tonight. Going to end the live and end the recording. And if you want to network